Welcome to the Sip and Say It podcast with your host, Carlos, a.k.a. Los, a podcast that promises to deliver a raw and unfiltered experience as we dive into the one-on-one conversations about a wide array of topics. We're inviting listeners to engage in candid discussions, personal stories, and diverse perspectives. Say what's on your minds. Let's create an open space for honest dialogue. As a village, let's immerse ourselves on trending issues, personal anecdotes, thought-provoking themes. Nothing is off limits. Tune in and become part of the conversations. Let's sip and say it together.
Welcome, folks. Welcome to our new episode of Sip and Say It. This is your host, Los, and my man,
This is Kevin.
Kev. So, look, it's October. I guess as a representation of October, what everybody knows October, not necessarily for Beer Fest, right? Oktoberfest kind of a thing, but it is Halloween, right?
It is.
So it brings us to this episode that we figured we'll kind of dive into a little bit, right? So, Kev, this is probably a two-part question in a sense. Do you believe in ghosts, right? And then, what are dreams, and why do we dream? Have you ever heard that dreams sometimes mean something?
I have heard that and seen many books on that.
Hmm.
Also, I had a therapist once that told me to keep a dream journal by the bed.
Interesting. So you know what it says? Many people believe in ghosts, right? So, which are spirits that are left behind after someone who was alive died. So one of the things I was reading into, it says according to a 2021 poll, they did a poll of about 1,000 American adults, right? I said about 41% of them said they believe in ghosts, and then about 20% said that they had personally experienced a situation, ghost experience or spiritual experience. If they're right, that's more than 50 million spirit encounters just in the US alone, right? So about roughly half of all Americans believe in ghosts or life after death, according to a website called Ghosts and Gravestones, right? And in 2005, Gallup did a poll, and it indicated about that 32% of Americans believe in ghosts. And a more recent poll done by Huffington Post and YouGov indicated that 45% of American adults believe that spirits of dead people can come back. How do you feel about that?
That's a loaded question.
Sure.
One with the 50% of Americans who believe in some type of life after death. Would that also include going to heaven, or is it not? Break it down that way.
It doesn't indicate, but I mean, for the purpose of our conversation, why not? Let's include that, right?
All right. So yeah, I would like to think maybe that number does include that. But me personally, I've said in a previous episode, yes, I do believe in ghosts because I have had experiences myself with ghosts, energy, whatever you want to call it.
So before you even dive into that, right? So I'm sure a lot of us get to see a lot of reality TV, especially like on the Travel Channel in a sense. There are many shows that kick off paranormal witness, the haunted, ghost adventures,
Ghost hunters.
ghost hunters. If anybody's a big YouTube guy like I am, Project Fear is in there.
Yeah.
Paranormal Files. I mean, we could probably talk forever on some of these things, but it's amazing some of these things that they eventually capture, right? Whether through electronics, EVPs, things that they get recorded in between. But I want to dive into an experience that you had in the previous trip or tour that you did.
Oh, so you want me to go into the experience I had on that? Sure.
Yeah, let's share with everybody. I mean, because I mean, this is all part of it, right? So I'll share some things, but my part is more on the dream side of the house. Um, well, let's dive into the you know, do you believe in ghosts? I think uh, I'm going to answer it first on my behalf. I do believe in ghosts, um, and maybe not in the bad way, but I'm a believer that there are things out there that we can't explain.
True. And even if we take it from a physics perspective, was it physics where we learned about energy never stops or
Mm,
motion never
no,
stops?
motion never stops.
Right. So if you think about it that way, as human beings, we are a lot of energy moving all around. Um, what happens to that energy if we're going to stick to physics principles?
Mm, continues to go.
Right. Now, I do not take that, please do not take it, people listening, that I'm saying that there's no afterlife or anything like that. I believe, I believe in heaven. I believe in Christ and everything. So ideally, that is what happens to us. But I also believe that sometimes we are the ones that have to be willing to let go, to move forward. From a personal experience, I had when my mother was in hospice, she was in hospice at home. Um, I really believe she hung on because I wanted her to.
Mm,
And one of these things, she died 6 years ago, and to this day, I still remember something she said to me. She said, "Déjame morir."
mm,
She told me to let her die, and I was shocked when she told me this. Because I didn't think me wanting her around was being selfish. But when she said that, then all of a sudden I feel like, oh, she doesn't want to be around anymore. She's kind of sticking around because, my brother and I, whatever. But after she said that, and I said, okay, mom, I think it was like a week afterwards that she died. Um, Kind of she let go, and, I want to believe she's in heaven.
let me ask you this: do you think is other than maybe just feeling tired, right? Because a lot of people I've heard that some people do say that they're tired and they just want to rest.
Right.
Do you think was that maybe her situation, or do you believe that um it was an acceptance with her that she was right with the man above?
Oh, she definitely knew she was right. Um, but I don't know if it's one of these instances where, if we go back to me talking about energy, if the energy that who we are in our body is trying to leave and we are not willing to let it go. So we're just holding on to it, and it's getting harder and more difficult to hold on to because it really wants to leave.
Mhm.
Um, and I think when we encounter spirits or ghosts or these balls of energy, that it's people who were not ready to let that energy go. That for, maybe a sudden death or whatever it was that it happened, they weren't ready. Um, they kind of just stuck around instead of getting on the train or whatever to the next step.
Wow.
So that being said, I can tell you some of the things I've experienced.
I want you to get into the nitty gritty one. Good experience on that tour.
Okay. I can tell you the tour, and I can tell you something kind of that led me to actually take those tours.
Okay.
Um, so in a previous lifetime, uh, and I mean, like, work I did before. Um, we had a customer who had purchased an old hotel in Delaware City in Delaware. And they were having some telecommunications things put into this old hotel. They had the hotel renovated to make it more modern. And with that came telecom. Apparently, they had two other companies that they had contracted with to come in and do this work for them. But we never got told why these companies ever finished. They kind of started doing whatever they did, and then they just stopped coming. Um, I personally thought it was because they were most likely, you know, difficult customers, people difficult to deal with. And after a while, you're like, you know what? I don't want to come back here. You know, find somebody to finish this job because I'm done with it. That's how I felt it was going to be at first. And I told my told my boss that, but he, you know, he's like, no, 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 just go do it. You can do it. So myself and a coworker, we go out there, and we're out there for I don't know a couple of weeks, you know, running different cables, doing a bunch of different things that still needed to get done. And it was a task that was more difficult than normal. We ran into a lot of issues that we don't normally run into, things that sometimes we scratch our heads at, like, hey, where is this particular tool, right? It was just here, and then it wasn't there. It'd be like 3 rooms down, and we didn't, you know, do anything with it. At least we didn't think so at the time. Um, but little by little, we got everything done, and then there was this one final room that we had to get to, which was on the 3rd floor of the hotel, that they wanted to have a telephone in that room. So we go into this room, and his room, like I said, is on the 3rd floor. And when you walked into it, it was a good 5 to 6 degrees difference in temperature. Like you could just feel the chill as soon as you walked in.
They do say temperature change is an indicator.
Yeah. So you'd walk in, you'd walk out, and it was like you'd walk out into a heated room and you'd go back out into the cold. It's kind of how it felt as you walked in and out of this room. So we're doing everything we you know we need to do, and we get to the point where we can't get the phone to pick up a signal in that room. Right? We wanted to hardwire this phone; it wasn't working, so we wanted to double check the cabling, make sure that the ends were done correctly. The people who started the work didn't label anything; they left before things got labeled, so it was up to us to determine where the end of that wire was, the correct one. So there's a tool called a uh, a toner. You have a toner, and it's basically this little square that generates sounds. It's got 2 alligator clips, banana clips, however you want to call them, that you put on the end of one wire, and then you go to the other end of where that wire supposedly is, and with this wand, you touch it to the group of wires that are there, and it should make a sound. So when you have the correct wire, you'll hear a little tone like dee 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 dee, and that's how you can find or trace the wires out. So we're there and we could not trace a single wire out. We tried and tried, couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, when you press the button on the wand, instead of the normal static sound, we still got like a little static sound, but then we also got like whispering through it. We got like sound. And it was spooky, right? So we're hearing this and we're like, what's going on? Um, no matter what we did, we just could not. So we convinced the customer, it's like, look, we can put a base for a wireless phone out here in this other room, and you can actually have the handset and charger in the room you want, and it's going to work. And they agreed. So that's kind of what we did.
But let me go back to when you guys listened to that the like the whispering.
Mhm.
Did that kind of give you like the heebie-jeebies? Like,
Oh, it did. Just walking into that room, I would get kind of goosebumps because there was just something felt off in that room. It
mm,
wasn't just a cold, it just kind of felt off, right? Like I didn't want to be in that room by myself.
so your energy itself, you're already feeling that.
Absolutely. Like I went into the room by myself, and I think I was in that room 30 seconds, and I went to get my coworkers. Hey, Tony, come in here and help me. And then I walked out the room when he was in it. Um, and he came out like a minute later. He said, "There's something wrong in that room." And I'm
He
like,
felt it.
he felt it. So we're finishing everything, and we're testing the cordless phone with the customer and explain to them why we ended up doing it that way. And that's when they gave us a little history of the hotel. Apparently, in that room,
hmm
there were 3 suicides.
Residual.
Yeah.
Residual energy.
Yeah, there were 3 suicides in that room. So I found that very interesting, and then that same customer told me about Peapatch Island, which was an island that we can see across from that hotel,
Mm.
and how you can take a ferry to it, and he told us how the island was haunted and everything. And that's when I discovered about these tours that they do every time, this time of year, every year. You can get on the boat, get on the ferry, and go across to Peapatch Island. And if you look that up, if you go on Google or if you go on YouTube and you look up Fort Delaware and Peapatch Island, you'll see all kinds of things. They've actually had ghost hunters on there. There's been all kinds of people go on there and they feel things.
So you took that. Let's just say you took that tour. Yes or no?
I did take that tour twice so far.
Okay. Tell me your first experience that made you just go, hmm.
Yeah. So there were all kinds of things that the first time we went, you well, first I started by going to Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia by the airport.
Okay.
I did that with my brother. Um, and while we didn't really experience anything extraordinary there were some areas that I felt a pressure on my chest. Like I did not want to be in that room or in that space because some of the spaces they took us to were kind of underground in tunnels and things like that. And it just felt very oppressive.
Hmm.
It wasn't every area. There were some areas where, especially where they told us, "Oh, we had this kind of sighting, we had this, and the other thing happened." There were some spaces that it felt very hard to breathe. Like there was something just pressing down on me. And it was oppressive.
So I'm sure a lot of people sit there and they try to find a way to debunk some of this stuff, right? And it could be you guys were down there deep, down there, and pressure is different from outside to
Mhm.
inside. But I think, at least I'm a believer of that instinctively we feel that energy, right? Like we could tell when things don't feel right, and that was probably what you were feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have that sixth sense in some fashion that we can feel something's off or there's danger or something to us,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I did that with my brother, and then I told him about the Fort Delaware one, and he definitely got excited about that. He said, "Let's do that," because he's got a very strong curiosity for that, and I didn't want to let him do it by himself, so I said, "All right, I'll go with you." And we went, and I went with a couple coworkers as well. And when we got there, um, first thing I had, um, they took us into this section where we had to put these sort of like these Crocs type of things, but we had to put them over our shoes because the bats that live on that island have some type of sickness that they don't want to take off the island to make other bat populations sick. So we put these shoes over our shoes and we went in here and you're going through tunnels and all kinds of things and you're weaving your way out until you get into bigger areas. And they had different equipment. They had these laser grids and these energy things. They had all this stuff set up and they told us the history of each thing. So with the laser grids, if some type of energy were to cross the beams, you would see the laser sections go out.
Right, some kind of disruption.
Some type of disruption, right? Now, yeah, I mean, maybe wind. I don't know if wind counts as energy to disrupt something. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But there, we did notice in the particular corner that laser beam kept going out. And I know that when curiosity got to me and I started walking towards that corner, there was a point of I don't think I want to go anymore.
Mm.
I just kind of stopped and came back, and I'm like, whatever, it's defective, right? And keep walking. And they told us this story about they showed us a picture actually that they had captured what they were calling the blue man. It was an image that was of a man, and it kind of had like a bluish tint to the face, so they were calling it the blue man. There's a like an armory room or something at the end in that area, and that's usually where it was spotted. Um, we're walking through there, and I'm with the group, and they had given me this reader, this EMF reader or something like that, where the light would come on if it detected energy or whatever. So I'm busy walking around with this thing, right? And I'm like, this thing doesn't work. And I'm not paying attention where I am or the group. I'm just walking around. And all of a sudden I realize, because I got un escalofrio,
Oh yeah.
all right?
You
Like
get the goosebumps,
I got
right?
the goosebumps on my arm, right? And that made me stop in my tracks because all of a sudden I felt like, ooh, what is this? And I look up and I'm by myself. Like the group went somewhere else and I hadn't paid attention. I'm by myself, and it's in the back where they had these lights that supposedly when there's that kind of energy around, the lights go on and off, right? And I'm there, and I don't like being there. Um, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna turn around and leave. I said out loud, right? And when I said that, those lights started blinking.
Mm.
Big time. And then the goosebumps really got goosebumps on top of goosebumps, right? And I did a 180 and I'm hustling my butt out of there. And I was yelling for my brother to stop for me to catch up. Caught up to him, and that was that one section where again, I don't know if those lights if they are what they say they are, but it's what I experienced there.
Hmm.
And throughout the night, with some people using these dowsing rods and different things, we're experiencing things, absolutely experiencing things according to what the guides are telling us.
Mm.
So this is me having to have belief in what the guides are telling me as truth, right? Yes, I've had my feelings with goosebumps, or I've had my feelings where something's not right here. But towards the end of the night, we're in this all in the center of this one building, and at that point, they have something called like a voice box, I think it's called,
Mm.
where you can hear like a voice coming through, a soft voice. And I remember my experience with the one, hearing the voice through there. Um, but it was hard to tell what they were saying, and it was getting late, and we were the last tour in that spot. So finally, the tour guy says, spirits require a lot of energy to actually communicate with us. And at this point, it's been a long night. There's been a lot of activity. I think they may not have the energy left to communicate with you. So he says out loud, thank you for everything you've shown us today. If you actually want these people to know that you're here, could you give them some type of sign before we leave? And it is at that point that it sounds like every door in that building was slammed shut at the same time. I'm telling you, we all jumped because we were all there in the center. It wasn't like someone was in a different area doing things. We were all there in the center, and we heard all the doors just slam shut. Even though they were all shut, it sounded like the doors all slammed shut at the same time. And that was something that I didn't need, people to explain to me that said, oh, this machine does that, this machine does the other thing. No, this was like a physical where the doors just they slammed.
Let me ask you that. Or let me ask you this. Do you think that was staged?
I don't think it was staged.
Hmm.
No, that I don't think it was staged because they had nothing to gain from that. Just because of all the other stuff we had, and they didn't have that kind of staff to be staging that. Um, so no, I don't think that was staged. And to end that night, we had one person in our group who was kind of skeptic and a
Mhm.
naysayer and everything like that. And towards the end of the night, when everything's over and we all have to leave before we catch the boat, everyone goes to the bathroom, whatever. Then we had to catch the uh, the the tram to the boat. I go to the bathroom. She goes to the bathroom. You got the men's room, ladies' room next to each other. I'm taking care of my business, and all of a sudden I hear her scream in the bathroom. So I zip up real quick to run over to see what's going on. She was she was wet. The toilet that she was using literally exploded on her.
Oof. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean,
But it's funny. The one person who was talking trash the whole night about everything is the person that a toilet exploded on.
wow. So look, man, I'm definitely a believer that things are out there. But let's dive into what are dreams, because I think our dreams also are somewhat connected. They say dreams talk to us, or give us signs or, um, I guess, represent certain things down the line. So it was an article that I was sitting there reading for a little bit, right? And it says, what are dreams and why do we dream, right? So they say dreams are a universal experience that includes a series of thoughts, emotions, sensations, ideas that usually occur when the person is sleeping, right? So, although it's hard to say what dreams consist of, it is truly accepted that dreams represent a collection of emotion, ideas, thoughts, events, places, and symbols that are relevant to that to the dreamer indirectly, right?
Hmm.
So it's believed that the dreams are full of emotional and vivid experience that connect them with everything happening around them. So the question is then, why do we have dreams? And then basically the way they spelled it out to us was that dreams are the way your brain communicates with yourself when you're sleeping. I mean, that's right to the point. Dreaming is more of a thinking process that processes the thoughts, emotions, and changing events that happen from the day. I mean, think of it. Things that we either experience that entire day, and if it was really relevant to us, there's no question that we go to sleep thinking about those things, right?
Right.
It could have been impactful. Um, so as I was reading that article, and basically says once you enter that REM sleep, that sleep cycle, right? That's where your dreams really take place. And those
Hmm.
thoughts continue to be symbolized into words, pictures, or some kind of scenario. And then the other part was is how do dreams work? So they say, according to Sigmund, I'm about to mess this up or chop it up. Freud's,
Freud, yeah,
yeah,
Sigmund
Sigmund
Freud.
Freud's theory of dreams. These represent our unconscious desires, thoughts, wishes, and motivations. So, according to him, people are driven by their repressed wishes from childhood or current situation. When you sleep, some parts of the brain become dormant and the emotions take over. Through the dreaming process, you continue to explore those thoughts about that day that you just experienced, the achievements, the mistakes, the hopes, or anything that deeply affected you. That right. So, do you believe dreams have meaning?
I think some dreams can definitely have meaning. I think sometimes our brain is processing things that we need to finish processing. Something that's been going on in our lives. Maybe some things we can't face directly for whatever reason, and then we sleep, and our brain continues to work while we're sleeping. Right? It starts processing those things, and that is one of those. I hate to use this word, but I don't know what other word to use right now. The pseudoscience. You know, dream interpretation.
Mm,
There's many books you can buy on dream interpretations. You can talk to people who are dream interpreters, and now, and again, I'm going to say, so I'm going to refer to the Bible, and hopefully, people don't crucify. But sorry, that's a bad word to use. Bad word to use. But um, if we're going to talk about the multicolored coat in the Bible, there are many references to dreams, to people having dreams, and other people interpreting those dreams, and that actually come in to fruition. So, according to the Bible, dreams can have meanings, and there are people who do interpret them.
okay. So, I'm definitely going to share a very unique dream that I had that always kind of stands out to me. And I've had a couple, and I always feel like there's some kind of interpretation, but this one specific dream I had to follow up with. So before going into that dream,
Hmm.
because we're definitely going to dive into a little bit of the what some of the dreams or some categories of what dreams mean, right? So, as mentioned earlier, dreams are the repressed thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we eventually collect over time. Dreams actually do have a meaning. And they say some scientists believe that what happens physiologically affects us in our dreams. For example, if somebody has dealt with a post traumatic stress disorder, they're more likely to experience nightmares. So their dreams are highly driven by the stress that has been settled in their unconscious mind,
Hmm.
which they feel hard to shake off. So you see, dreams do have meanings and they occur because of some of other rational explanations. So we're going to eventually dive into some of the most common dreams and their meanings, but I'm going to share this one with you. I recall having a dream, and I'm in my aunt's house, and I'll try to cut it right to the point. um, Try to describe the house. So when you first walk up the steps, it was like an enclosed porch area. Once you walk into that enclosed porch area, there's another door that leads you into the main part of the house.
Right.
Actually, well, I guess you would consider that the living room area. So I do recall being inside of there, and we were either looking at pictures or I can remember almost like we were somewhat mourning something or someone. And I remember standing. So when you picture the first floor is kind of the living room where the sofa and TV is area, and then you walk a little further into the house is considered where the dining room table was set up before you walked into the kitchen.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of in between the dining room, living room area, and I'm looking towards the porch area. And as I'm looking towards the porch area, all I see is it's almost like the sun is just beaming right into the porch area. And it's so strong that it's coming into the living room, dining room area. And as I'm looking, I see basically like the apparition of my grandma, my
Wow.
my dad's mom.
Hmm.
And she was always known to be almost like crossing her arms, like it would be almost across her chest,
Okay.
kind of looking, right? And grandmom's hair was always pulled back into her ponytail, round face, always with a smile. And I almost like in this dream, I'm looking at her. I'm like, I can't believe that I'm actually seeing grandma. Now I want you to almost describe like that light is basically shining into the room, and it's almost like it's projecting her.
Hmm.
Because you could almost like see through her, but I could see her entire body and her face, and she kind of gave me this look of like I'm at peace. And in the dream, I remember just uh, tearing, like it was uncontrollable tearing. Not because it burned her, but just this feeling of like, wow, I'm looking at grandma, and grandma's looking at me. No words, just no words. It was just a sense of feeling like, and I don't even know how I got this, but it was almost like, tell them I'm okay. Everything is fine.
Wow.
And in the midst of it, I guess emotionally in this dream, again, looking at her, not saying anything, is this face of content, like she's good. She didn't even have to open her mouth and say anything. It was just almost telling me, I'm good, I'm fine, right? And I recall popping up from the dream and my face is wet. Like I was crying. I was that somehow I woke up. What I was experiencing in the dream. I woke up and my face was wet
Right.
as I was, and there was this sense of anxiety in me, um, almost like I still needed to tear, but it was a sensation that, um, now mind you, I think this is probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and my dad, God rest his soul, I uh, I had this feeling like I had to call him, and it's if anybody's ever experienced, right, like you call anybody at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the first, first they're
Something what's
startled,
wrong, right?
something,
Something
what's going on, what's wrong, right?
yeah.
So I did that. I called my dad, and my dad, I could already hear like he must have probably hopped off the bed, and he was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's going on? You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I need to tell you something." He was like, "What?" I said, "What did you do today? Where was you today?" And I said, "Then I'll tell you why." And he said, "Nothing. I was and by the way, you guys will understand this when I bring it up." He said, "I went to the cemetery today to clean your grandmom's grave, clean the area out,
Hmm.
cut the grass and stuff like that, bring just kind of like clean it up for her." And he said, "Why? Why are you asking me that?" And I said, "Because I just had a dream and I saw her, and I basically why I'm calling you is because I feel that I need to tell you. She wanted me to tell you that she's okay."
Wow.
And it was like dead silent. Now I know that hit him. I know it absolutely hit him. He sat there for a second. He was like, and he tried to basically. I don't want to say that he was trying to explain, but I told him what I saw, and again, he wasn't startled. I think it was he clearly didn't say it to me, but there ain't no question in my mind that he's out there. He was praying. He was probably hoping that she was okay,
Yeah.
and that you know, I think how ironic was that was a early morning Monday, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Sunday was Mother's Day,
Wow.
and that he's just saying that my hairs kind of stand up. I get the goosebumps, right? Because, when you sit back and think of it a little bit, when we go through those situations, especially going to the cemetery, you pray for them. You pray that you hope that they're in your loved ones in a safe place, and, sitting with the man above, and they're, cherishing their lives up in paradise, right? And I'm sure that he probably did that. And I'm sure he asked and prayed and he hoped that she was okay. And that answer eventually came through me. Now, I want you to understand that I didn't know he was at the cemetery and he did what he did. Yes, it was Mother's Day. We all do things eventually for our moms and or our significant others. So, our days were busy, trying to make sure you cater to the women in your lives and for being mothers and mothers to you, mothers to your children and stuff like that. But how ironic that dream happened to me, and I felt the sense of that I had to call him. Like it clearly, the anxiety in me, you would have figured the here's the you try to think the logic, right? Or you try to debunk certain things, but it was just so overwhelming to me that I had to call him. Like it was a sense like, no, you kind of have to call him right now
Yeah.
and talk to him. And you know, obviously his response back was, well, you should take a prayer and pray to God and thank God and thank him for that opportunity to see your grandma and for you to deliver that message. Um, So, I think I am a believer of dreams. I'm a believer that dreams do mean something. And sometimes, depending on the kind of person you are, right? Like there's certain messages that you know, people try to interpret, right? And one of the things where, as they were talking about some of the most common dreams and their meanings. One was dreams about being chased.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay, right.
So that's a very common one that everyone at some point in their life experiences, right? Being chased in a dream means that you have been avoiding something important or not acknowledging something. You could try not to focus on your issues, or let me correct that. You you could try not to focus on your issues, so it might be time to solve your problem once, right? Or that didn't even sound right, but anyway,
How about falling? Is that on the list?
that's number 2.
Okay.
So another meaning about being chased could be that you do not want to take others' advice and are closed-minded. You're a closed-minded person. If you've had a daunting experience of being attacked by someone, then it could reflect in your dreams too. You could understand if you could understand who is chasing you, then you could fit the pieces. And Kev, you hit one right off the bat because number 2 is dreams about falling. Tell me what your thought about that.
Yeah, I've had those where I not that I remember them, but I know I wake up because I feel like I'm falling.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you know what they say? Sometimes that's a clear expression of at least scientists and those that dive into, let's just say, interpreting dreams.
mhm.
It's an expression of stability or security issues in life.
Hmm.
You might lack control in your life, basically in your job or relations. This could also mean that your life is going in the wrong direction. At least that's their interpretation. Hmm.
That's actually a pretty good interpretation. I haven't had those types of dreams in some time. But I did have them frequently. The other one is probably on the list is flying. Is that on the list?
Oh, listen, you hit it. Number 4,
Number 4.
dreams about flying. All right. So flying in dreams simply means confidence, hope, freedom. Feeling of flying seems great, but if you wish to break it down, then it could also be the feeling of independence.
Hmm.
At least their interpretation of that. So, um, there's one about dreams about death. Hmm. So they say about dreaming about death could be very scary. I mean, no one ever wants to dream about dying.
Dream by your own death. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, that would not be pleasant.
But in reality, it means you've accepted a change in your life or ready for self transformation. And it means that you have discovered or are ready to discover yourself.
Hmm.
Dreams of dying are usually a positive sign. Well, how ironic, right? You about
It's a positive
Yeah,
sign.
it's a
Yeah.
positive sign,
Right.
and there's nothing to worry about. I don't know. I think I would still worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with you see or hear enough about tarot cards that the death card is actually a good card when you would think it's not.
Hmm. Interesting. So tell me, what do you think about dreams about water?
Water.
Yeah.
I think I should have drank some water before I went to bed, and I'm probably thirsty.
Wow. All right. Well, they're saying dreams about water mean enormous success
Oh,
or a disturbed emotional mental state.
okay. I'm glad I've never dreamed of water.
Mm. There are types of water that can appear in your dreams. If you see clear water, you have found clarity. Ironic, right?
Hmm.
And if you are really clear, hold up. Let me backtrack. It says if you see clear water, you have found, excuse me, found clarity and are really clear about your wants. If you see muddy or dirty water, it can mean sadness or unclear feelings.
Hmm.
Another meaning of seeing water could be that you're feeling unsupported by your loved ones. I can't even say it's funny looking at this one. It says dreams about food. I dream about food all the damn time. I'm just trying to, think of what I'm going to cook, what restaurant we want to go to, right?
Right, right.
But you know, actually says if you're dreaming about food, it just means you're hungry.
Oh, I I don't know if you've ever had that, but have you ever, and I'm not trying to extend our time, but have
Mhm.
you ever smelled while you're dreaming?
Hmm. I don't think I have.
No?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I kind of feel like I have.
You guys are you probably all you guys are probably gonna laugh. Maybe what you smelled was, some gas.
If I was dreaming about death and smelled death, yeah, that'd be
Yeah. Here, this one, and I'll cut it short right to this one is dreams about animals, right? So they're saying seeing animals in a dream is related to personality traits. Can mean that you have similar personality traits to that animal. For example, seeing an owl can mean that having an observant behavior. Seeing a dog can mean loyalty.
that's me. I have dream with dogs.
While seeing a snake can mean many things like good luck, untrustworthy people, or hidden desires. Hmm. Really something, man. Really something. So, I mean, if you guys really want to do some deep dives, man, I'm sure there's. I've been to Barnes and Nobles. They have books of interpretation of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I think I did have one. I don't know whatever I did with it, but it's interesting to do those deep dives. And for you guys, again, that do you believe in ghosts? Well, there's a lot of things out there that are unexplained. Um, and again, this was all about Halloween. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of things that are unexplained out there, and there's many shows, and you know, it just comes down to really what you believe. And here's the reality: where there's good, there's bad.
Yep, yin and yang.
Yeah, and you know, when you know yourself, and you know where your beliefs are at. Those are the things that you hold on to. More importantly, as you go in life, you have those moments that you speak to the man above and build that relationship with the man above to give you clarity, to show you the way, and let him work in you. And when he works in you, you take those teachings and work on other people. So, folks, listen, hope this was a decent episode or interesting episode. Again, it was all about Halloween. And again, it was, do you believe in ghosts and what do dreams mean? Right. So, like we say it every single time, thank you for joining us and Sip and Say It. And if you have any questions, any suggestions, and or you just want to comment about this episode and bring light to certain things, right? Reach out to us at Sip and Say It podcasts at gmail.com. And Kev?
info@sipandsayit.com or go to the website, sipandsayit.com, and get more info there.
Absolutely. And folks, and listen, as we finish every single episode, let's do it real talk, one sip at a time, and do it together. So I hope to see you guys on the next episode, and hope you guys enjoy this. Peace.
Peace.
On behalf of your host, Los, thank you for joining us this week on Sip and Say It. Without you, the village, and the participation on Sip and Say It, the universe will never know what's on your mind. Subscribe to Sip and Say It on media platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and our very own Facebook page at Sip and Say It. Email us with your thoughts about the episode or topics you'd like to hear to be discussed at sipandsayitpodcast@gmail.com. Tune in next for our next episode. We can sip and say it together.